Listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, it's Joanna Hart, and welcome to From the Heart, coming live to you Thursday evening, straight from London. It's a fantastic evening. The sky is tangerine and blue here in London. I hope wherever you are, you're feeling chilled out, happy, relaxed. I will talk about my own experience with the Egyptian religion, with Egypt. I probably mentioned it last week about a friend of mine mentioned the god Hathor, and I felt that name resonated with me. I had for a long time not been happy with my name, Christine. I just can't stand it, actually, that name. I really, I can't stand saying it. It just doesn't feel as if it relates to me in any way, shape or form. And it just feels as if it's, as if I'm like insulting myself, as if I'm calling myself Biscuit or something equally horrible. The name Joanna, that doesn't at all resonate with me at all. It seemed like it was a thing, and it doesn't really suit me, and so I don't really have a name. And the other day I was driving around in my car and trying to think of something that I could call myself, and it came to me as like H-A, ha. And, wow, gosh, I'm looking out the window and the chemtrails have gone pink. So, and so I said the word ha, and I thought Harriet, and I thought I must find this name. And a friend of mine was talking about something and said Hathor, and I seized on it and I thought, that's it. That's the name. And obviously, I guess it couldn't have been because that is an Egyptian goddess, and I'm not a goddess, but perhaps it was just something that I would like to have been called. I don't know, but it came through me, and I really enjoyed the sound of it, really enjoyed saying it. So I Googled Hathor, and I was at that point of Googling the Egyptian gods and thinking, I wonder who they were and where they've gone and what was going on. And then I saw on Miles Johnson's page a woman, a blonde woman who had been to the British Museum, and touched Sekhmet, who is actually another side of Hathor, and had felt Sekhmet come inside her. And I thought, that's interesting. I will go to the British Museum and see if I can have that same experience. And meanwhile, I bought some books on Egypt and I was reading them. And so I went to the museum and I touched Sekhmet, and I didn't really feel anything when I touched that lion goddess stone statue. But I did feel a weird sense of possessiveness around the stone pillars that I saw, and I did feel that the English had stolen them and that they shouldn't be there, and what are they doing with our stuff, kind of thing. And I felt this real strong attachment to these things that I was seeing, and I thought maybe I've had a previous life there or something like that. But I was excited in some kind of way because I don't really resonate with the English around me, and I don't really resonate with the country I'm in. So to resonate with something was quite exciting for me. And I bought some little statuettes, not from the British Museum. It's really expensive. There's a shop opposite down Museum Street that sells pharaoh heads fairly cheaply. So I bought a pharaoh head, and I bought some little ornaments from there. And I came home, and I bought some books, and I bought a book by Norman T. Ellis and Nikki Scully on Isis and Thoth. and I began to read that, and Nikki Scully had a meditation to do around Sekhmet. So I was reading in the bath, and I did the meditation, and the meditation is to conjure up this lion goddess, basically, and kind of pull out of your life what problems you've had and what difficulties, and then you make a little string, and you tie a knot in the string in various places, and that symbolizes a problem that you've had. And I remembered that I had had a problem with boyfriends about their exes. I would find out who their exes were, and then I would rather obsess about them and then drive particular boyfriend absolutely mad by bringing them up all the time. And it was quite painful for me, because I would be like on a picnic with someone or out and really having a nice time, and then this feeling would come over me, it would wash through me, and it would just come up in my head. Oh, likes his ex, thinking about his ex, liked a lot more than you, really disappointed to be with you, would really like to be here right now with his ex. And it just, the feeling got worse and worse, and I got sadder and sadder and more upset, until they would say to me, you know, what's the matter? And I would have to say, I think you're thinking about your ex now, aren't you? And they would be like, what, who, what? And I would basically go on about it. So at my worst, I remember slamming my dumbbells into the bathroom door when I had someone around my house, and I just got that feeling, and I just felt so angry. I thought, why does it always happen to me? And I would, of course, get rid of the boyfriends, because I would just think, well, they like someone else, I've got to detach, and I would get rid of them. And, of course, then one ends up alone, and I ended up going out with people that I would think that their exes was probably not much for me to compete with, men that were a lot lower than me. So, you know, if there was an ex, it wouldn't make me so devastated, because it would always be somebody that wasn't really clever or really kind of, you know, up to me, somebody that I wouldn't invoke envy in any way, shape or form. So I had to go really low for that. I really did. And I still really struggled with it. But I didn't struggle with certain parts of it. And I wondered why that certain men, there hasn't been loads of men, but I mean, talking about even dating now, it doesn't have to involve sex. There were certain men that I didn't feel that with, and I didn't know why. And I thought, you know, why with certain men I don't get that. And so I was doing this Sekhmet thing, and it says, Nikki Scully says in her book to do the knotting thing. So I did the knot, and I said this, that, you know, I haven't really been able to have a proper relationship with a man because of this problem that sounds like a farce, but it's a serious problem, really, if you have it. It's not, you know, it's not a nice thing. It's a horrible thing. It tore me down in my life. And of course you make a fool of yourself in front of people, and then, you know, you think, oh God, and you just want to get away. And I've done that. I've gotten away from men. I've left countries to get away from them. And so I put that in the knot. And then the next bit of the exercise is where you offer it up to this lioness goddess that at this point I was actually getting visions of. Meditation is pretty good, actually. And so what you do, you put your hand out with the knot, and Sekhmet licks up these knots. Anyway, so I did that, and she, this lioness I was envisaging in my head, which is part, it's noisy, part of the exercise. Anyway, Sekhmet, I'm so insane sharing this. Sekhmet was chewing on the knot, and then what you're supposed to do is lean back and ask Sekhmet what she wants to offer you. And I did that, and bizarrely, it's totally bizarre because I just thought it's more new age nonsense. Bizarrely, this feeling came over me, and all of a sudden I got the word mother come up in my head, your mother. And then I had a memory of my mother going on about girls, certain girls were nice girls, certain girls were wholesome girls, they're nice girls. And when she said it, she would look at me as if, you're not nice, but they are. And my adoptive mother had dark hair. She had black hair, and I was a blonde. And she would, any girl anywhere at school, across the road, if they had dark hair, she would go, oh, that's a lovely girl. Oh, she's a lovely girl. And she would say it to her friends, to my father, to anybody that would listen in front of me. And it was excruciatingly painful. And I'd forgotten it all. And this thing, this weird, I don't know, stigma that I had, I don't know what you'd call it, but this weird thing I had with these men, it was always a dark-haired girl. And I would always, I'd seen a picture and it would trigger me. And then it would trigger my mother. Oh, fantastic, beautiful, wholesome, decent, and look at me as if I was like dirt in comparison. So it was only when boyfriends or people, I was just beginning to know, had a dark-haired ex-girlfriend, and I literally would question them until I jumped back, maybe 2 or 3, till I found a dark-haired one and would obsess about that particular dark-haired one, even if they had married a blonde and was literally maybe even suicidal about their ex. I was hopping back to the dark-haired one. And I'd done that all my life, and I'd never really known what the hell it was. I didn't know, it was there, and it was something I'd lived with, and I just thought, maybe I was a bit of a nutter to have it, and it was just, I'd be alone, and I'd just kind of put up with that. And so amazing, so interesting that Sekhmet, it was probably a demon, or this thing that I'd conjured through this book that I'd brought up at the British Museum. This thing had chewed up the knot. This is what you're supposed to do, offer it, and then they give you the answer and the enlightenment. And I got the enlightenment that it was my mother, and my mother had done that to me, and I'd forgotten. I just think that's totally amazing that she had absolutely drilled it into me, total programming that girls with dark hair are absolutely walking goddesses on the planet of Earth, and anyone else was just complete scum under their feet. She'd really done it well, because it started like when I was pretty young, and continued on through my life, and I'd forgotten, or I'd put it away because it's too painful, and I'd acted it out with men. And the more I was attracted to a man, the more I liked them, the worse it would get. I thought I was in for being flushed down the toilet, and for them to announce to me that actually there's this person, and didn't you know that you're something in a drain, and this person, that's a real woman, not you. And I would kind of preempt it because I was waiting for the hatchet to fall, and the hatchet to fall was actually my mother saying those terrible things over and over. You're just a child and you just want love, but just to have this to fall so short just because of your hair color was really, really painful. And her admiration for these girls around me was, she did it well. She really did it well, and destroyed a part of me. And so doing the exercise and having that enlightenment when I'd completely repressed it, didn't know it. I mean, God knows that I've had so much therapy over the years, different types of therapy like EMDR, primal therapy. I have tried every therapy under the sun to just feel, super functioning, to be, one of these women that you see dressed in Margaret Howell with a house husband and chocolate Labrador, and, everything's right, and they look mature and they act mature and they just do, other women like them. And, I've always wanted to be like that, but haven't been able to get there. So I've spent so much money, hundreds, thousands, on therapy to try and get to be that person, but actually haven't. And I had never, and I've seen some really good therapists, but I'd never got to that. And I'd asked them, I said, I've got this thing, and they'd never been able to enlighten me. And some therapists are actually quite annoying. They say things like, what do you think it is? I don't know. Yeah, you must know. Studied for years and years and you don't know. But Sekhmet knew. So weird. So yeah, Nikki Scully. So she's interesting. And same with Normandy Ellis. And I did get Normandy on the show. She was a little bit secretive. What happened after the meditation? I can't remember. There's more exercises to that meditation. Then you go off into, oh yes, I remember now, the next bit. Then you go off and you've got to let Sekhmet eat you. So I did it because, hey, I'd been given this enlightenment. So, I thought to myself, okay, I'll let this lioness eat me, fine. So you make yourself really small and the lioness licks you and then you are in the belly of the beast. And it was only after I'd done this exercise that I was talking to a friend and they enlightened me that it's actually dangerous because in the belly of the beast is like an occult ritual. I still haven't actually managed to look into that because I've been quite busy. But there I was doing in the belly of Sekhmet meditation. These meditations are really, really strong as well. They're good. They're not your usual lightweight nonsense. They're not even like Barry Long, and there's another someone else who does that, Eckhart Tolle. I've got a friend who raves about, but I've tried all those meditations and I really just do start thinking about cooking the dinner and, cleaning up. And I've always thought I wasn't the kind of person to meditate, but these meditations, whoa, I mean, they're really good. I don't know where she got them, but I don't think they could have been from her own head. They're definitely a challenge, not to insult her, but they're quite intense and magical. And anyway, so I was in the tummy, and you actually feel it. You can almost feel yourself in this hairy cat's tummy and sort of the belly swinging. And what happens in that exercise? So you kind of do things where you run around and then you feel very much in the belly. And there's something else, and I've forgotten completely. And so that night I went to sleep, and as my listeners know, I do journey. I do astral projection. It happens to me. I can't do it myself. So it will just happen, and I will find myself out of my body somewhere, and I will be aware that my body is on the bed, and I'm conscious of that. I can feel the bed covers, and yet I'm conscious of being where I am and talking to other people. So I'm like astrally conscious, but only it does it to me. I can't do it myself. Or other people have been able to contact me. Someone on Facebook contacted me and actually came and just pulled me out at a certain time. They just said, be ready at a certain time, I'll come and get you. And they did. So other people can help me, but I can't. And so I found myself out of my body in a cave, and I saw this Nikki Scully, I hope she doesn't mind me talking about her, at the front of the cave. She ticked me off a list, and I went inside, and Normandy Ellis was inside. There was other people, and Normandy said, "Oh, there's a radio host woman." I said, "Yeah, hi," and she said, "Here's a sign. Here's something to sign." And so I said, "What is it?" She said, "Oh, you have to sign your soul over." And I said, "Oh, how do you mean? I don't know if I fancy doing that." Because I have had other encounters, like with Colonel Michael Aquino on the astral, where he's tried to get me to drink angel blood, and also to climb inside a shape within a shape, which I still don't know what it is, saying that I could time travel here, there, but I do believe that was probably, now I do believe that Douglas Dietrich was right. It was to trap me. But anyway, I wasn't curious. I just said, no, it's not very right. I don't think Jesus would approve. And then saying the word Jesus brought me back to my body straight away. Anyway, so Normandy said to me, it's just, well, it's the next part of the journey, and now you've had your enlightenment. The next part of the journey is to sign your soul over, and then you will get more enlightenment. So I went to sign it, and I saw a vision of Sekhmet, and I got a feeling that it wasn't Sekhmet, that it was somehow a shapeshifter. And I said to her, who are we signing our soul over to? Is it Sekhmet? Because I'm seeing Sekhmet and I'm thinking it's like a holograph. It's not actually her. And I'm thinking maybe it's a shapeshifter. And I just want to be sure. And because at this point, I'd got quite emotionally attached to Sekhmet. I'd been inside her, and she'd given me this enlightenment. So I developed a relationship by that point. And, I was, you sign your soul over, and I said, it doesn't seem like Sekhmet, so I just want to be sure. And she said, well, it's Set. I said, what do you mean it's Set? It's actually the god Set. You sign your soul to Set. At which point I came crashing back down into my body, because I knew that Temple of Set is a keynote, and I'd had this encounter with him before, and I really didn't want to get involved in a cult. I'm not saying that Normandy and Nikki are in a cult, but that was odd. Of course, it might not have been. I spoke to some people the next day about it, and they said to me, well, it might not be them. It might be somebody, but okay. I mean, it might not have been them, obviously, and they might not be wound up with Set. But I did get Normandy on my show, Normandy Ellis, and she was interesting, but she was a little bit secretive about parts of the book, because they're incredibly powerful meditations, and there was one of them where you get the Caduceus. I'm probably not saying it right. That thing where there's a snake and it's wound around. And there was an exercise where you let the snake come up inside you and you feel it. And I'd done that as well. And a friend of mine said that also was the serpent. The serpent that was bonding yourself with the serpent. So I don't know. Is that true, or is it Kundalini, or does it matter, or is Kundalini a big fast to get us all to get the serpent inside us? The exercise says you look out the eyes of the beast, and the beast looks out your eyes, and you look at its eyes. So it's again this sort of taking over thing. And then Sekhmet came to me quite a few nights in a row and kept saying, I want to come into your heart center. I want to come into your heart center. And I refused. At that point, I got a little bit cross with the whole thing, because I began to think that it was some kind of bidding for one's soul. And it's an odd way of going about it. It reminds me of Stephen Greer, who has got the same thing going on, like, oh, come here, you talk to aliens, you can have the phone app. But really, there's some sounds coming out of there that I felt the sound go right round me when I was in the thing with Stephen Greer, and it went round and round me like barbed wire, and then like that, attached on my heart, and I could barely breathe, and I was sick for days after. I was really badly ill. So listening to his alien noises really isn't a good idea, because whatever it is isn't good. And I felt that this Sekhmet that was conjured up by those exercises probably wasn't good, because the demonic realm, the archons, whatever you want to call them, fallen angelic, can give you insights, of course. I mean, they know everything. We are like rabbits. We don't know shit. They can see all down the timeline, and they can see why you're behaving like an arsehole in the current moment. So it is easy to, for people that don't know any better, to get attached. So that was quite interesting. And then what happened after that? I had another really, really weird encounter after that. I went and got more, I can't remember the order it's coming in now. I started to get flashbacks of being in the body of a girl back in ancient Egypt. And I'd gone back to the British Museum, or perhaps it was the first time I was there, and my eye had caught a gilded face where they paint their faces gold. It was an ornament. And as I saw it, I kind of felt sand under my feet, and I almost had a picture of a girl running, just that flashing. And I spoke to a friend of mine who told me that that was a portal. I didn't think it was a portal, but that night when I went to sleep, I allowed it to come into my mind, that barefoot running on sand. And all of a sudden, I found myself in the body of an Egyptian girl back in ancient times. And I went to a pharaoh, seemed like what I'd been looking at in the museum. And I told him that I had come from a time in the future. And he seemed to tell me that I was someone else there, and that they had sent me forward in time into the future. And he told me this. And I was excited about that. And I was trying to find out who I actually was then and where was my body. And he then put me in a cage. So then I came back to my body, and then the next night I again went back into that girl, and she was in a cage, and I couldn't get out basically. And I was trying to communicate with the guy who had put me in there back in that time, and he wouldn't speak to me. He pretty much wanted me on lockdown. And somebody told me that to try and get out of the cage, but it was a cage. I couldn't get out. So there's no point in going and journeying to that girl's body, because it had been on lockdown, because I made perhaps a stupid mistake of telling somebody that I had come from the future. And I'd really pushed out the consciousness of the girl and used her body to communicate with somebody, which probably wasn't really a good idea, because that person ended up caged up. So that was a kind of weird experience. So I wanted to explore more about having a possible identity back there in ancient Egypt. And as some of you might know, I've shared about before that when I was 23, I had an experience of being a walk-in. I had read a book called Strangers Among Us by Ruth Montgomery about people that wanted to die and make way for other beings. And I'd read the book, and I think I was like 19, and at the time I didn't really want to go on living, mainly because my mother didn't love me, and I didn't feel loved, and I felt that I was really ugly. She'd done a really good job on me, and I didn't want to live. And I read this book, and I prayed and prayed, and I begged these beings to use me. Please use me, please use me. I want out, I want out. And then one night I felt these lights around me, and the next day I felt just amazing. Not amazing like a high, it was just like, I've arrived, I'm here. And I walked down the street and was looking around as if, how amazing that I'm in a body. And this went on for a while, and then it's like, and I'd read about it, the memories of the original occupant become yours. So the longer you are in the vessel, the more you identify with the original occupant. And this went on for me, even though when I did primal therapy, which clears out old feelings, I did actually see this core self come forward that I didn't recognize as me, that had a gold face. So I remember writing about it, which again is a link to ancient Egypt. So it's quite interesting that maybe I had come from that time, even though it sounds kind of weird. Lots of strange things are happening spiritually these days. So I wanted to find out about a possible identity back then. And so I began reading many books on ancient Egypt and trying to jog something. And I did actually have a jog of a memory and just have flashings of being back there, being a young boy with my father. And my father, I think, was a priest, and I was of that line. And he was burying an ankh in the sands of the desert. And he said, the gods are like an ankh under the sand. It's still there, you just can't see it. And so I took myself back off to the British Museum this week and was walking around, and just as I saw some of the tombs, I felt a kind of being sucked back into this old world, and just kind of really, really sucked back into it, and sort of realizing that I was there and that something had snuffed us out. So going around looking at the tombs, it was rather like seeing that, it was rather like being, I don't know, a Nazi or something in World War II and kind of getting popped out of your body, and then going to a museum later and seeing all the Nazis sort of defeated and sort of, oh, someone else won kind of thing. I felt seeing that it felt weird because I saw that there had been a war and that somebody had wiped us out. And that's why I was looking at my people in a museum, because somebody had come along back then and had absolutely destroyed us and wiped us out. And I got the knowing that the enemy is still here. The enemy wiped us out and then carried on and is still in existence. And then I was coming home from the British Museum and I was looking out the window and I got a flash in of wearing one of those headdresses with a cobra coming out of it. And then I got the really strong imagery of snakes and serpents, and really, really strong, like a kind of craving for them. And so on the way home, I started Googling serpent bloodline, and to try and find out what it was. But whatever it was stamped out by, but it's odd really, because these days, like, you get David Icke who lectures about the serpents, and they're supposed to be the reptilians, and they're supposed to be really bad. We're supposed to be really good. And so I didn't really get it, because it was something beautiful that was wiped out in ancient Egypt, the way they spoke to the gods, and it was destroyed, and it was destroyed by an enemy. And I got that feeling, and it really felt horrible to be so connected there and to know that it was destroyed. And there it was in a cage. It was a strong, horrible feeling of, what have you done to us? I tell you what I felt like. I felt like Charlton Heston when he goes along the beach in Planet of the Apes and he sees the Statue of Liberty and he goes, what did you do? What did you do? I felt like that. I felt like I'd gone along the beach and seen the Statue of Liberty poking out of the sand, and you knew then that a load of apes had taken over the whole of Earth and done away with your people. That's how I felt. I felt really angry. I felt odd and angry and really emotionally churning. And so I got in the car, and when I was in the car, I just got the serpent thing, and I was trying to find out what that means. And they definitely did in those times wear the serpent coming out of their third eye. But I didn't manage to. I've been so busy, I didn't manage to look that up. So that was only the day before yesterday. And then the other night, I was talking to a friend late at night, and as soon as I shut my eyes, was texting my friend, and then as soon as I shut my eyes, I felt myself on the crust of the earth and then going down into a ditch, being there with other people. I was out of my body. I was in this ditch, but like a well cut out ditch, like it kind of went down like a lift, but it was mud either side, but it was, dug out nicely. And then when I was at the bottom of it, the bottom opened up And when it opened up, everybody went floating out like kind of spacemen we had little cords attached, but we went floating off, and I went floating off to a giant man who was addressing a crowd, and this giant man had kind of like something attached to his back, looked like a kind of skeletal bird, like a kind of dinosaur type bird attached to his, it's kind of creepy really now I think about it, like I could see its backbone, and it had wings attached to this bird, and almost looked like a Native American Indian, but not like that. This backbone of the bird, like a little dinosaur bird, was his backbone. And he had a kind of like a little beak kind of above his head. And I got the feeling, I got the name Sariel come into my head really strongly. Anyway, this man, I suppose with bits added, was addressing the crowd. And he said, you all are walk-ins and we have sent you out, but your mission has been interrupted by something. And then he said, but you've been given something new to do. And there was a groaning from the people listening, and he said, you will do it. It's almost as if it was something really horrible. And then he said, you will do it. And I felt filled with horror, and kind of went up to the side. They all dissipated, and I went to him and I put my hand on him. And when I put my hand on him, I looked down and saw it, and my hand was like painted in that gold leaf staff. And I said to him, I'll reward you greatly if you tell me who I am. And he turned to me and said, you're not in a position to offer me anything. And I turned slightly and I saw this Draco reptilian, this dog, just come out of the mist a little. And I said, he said, you go that way. He kind of relented in a way, and he said, if you want your answers, you go that way, or that's the direction for you. And no, he didn't. He said to me, if you're connected with Egypt, you go that way to the serpent kingdom, or the kingdom of the serpents. And I turned, and I saw a Draco reptilian, and I said, that's Draco. And he said to me, is that what you think? And I said, well, it is, isn't it? And he sort of seemed to think as if it wasn't. Anyway, I kind of walked in that direction, and indeed it was a kingdom of the serpents. There were these massive cobras. Are they serpents or cobras? I don't know, with the big things. And gosh, they were beautiful, massive, really tall, like in this entrance to these caves stroke castle kind of thing. But I went over water, and I went in the entrance, and it was so beautiful, these giant cobras. And I went inside, and as soon as I got inside, I felt a rush of absolute belonging that just throbbed through my whole body that I'd never had before, and I certainly haven't had here. And in fact, I've had the opposite, really strong. It was just a sense of belonging. I felt so happy, and I ran along the floor of this kingdom, which had lapis, the blue lapis on the floor, and beautiful mosaics everywhere, gorgeous. And I started shouting for my father, and then I snapped out of it. And as I snapped out of it, men were looking at a skull, and the skull was really rusty. They'd broken into a tomb, and they'd pulled out this skull, and they were looking at it. And as they did, by looking at it, they snapped me out of where I was, and they'd snapped me to them. And as they were squeezing it, I knew it was my skull. And they were saying, he was an unpopular fellow. They were ransacking my tomb, but they were British. They weren't people from that place, that kind of place. They were British, and they were squeezing it, and they said he wasn't a popular fellow. And I was so angry and scared, because what they were doing with it meant that I wouldn't be able to get back to it. And then I came back to back here in England in my body, feeling weird, and not knowing anything about it. And I did ask a friend, who is Sariel, who's the Serpent People, what's Kingdom, what's going on, and they helped me a little bit, but told me they had a lot to explain. And so I've been really busy and I haven't been able to find out what any of that meant, and it's really quite confusing right now. So if anybody knows, if anybody has any enlightenment, not insults like, what are you eating, carry on taking the magic mushrooms, not what a load of crap, not insults, because I just won't read them, and comments are looked at by me first before they get put on my YouTube, and also by my producer. So some have been deleted by mistake, so apologies to anybody who has made a comment, and because my finger slips when I'm reading them, and then I'm like, oh, I go to put it on there and I actually delete by accident. So I need to apologise about doing that. But I really would like anyone to comment below who has any enlightenment around this, because it is quite interesting. And I don't mean to malign Normandy Ellis or Nikki Scully. That wouldn't be right of me. We're now going to break, so I will probably... Actually, I might be able to find that book and that meditation. I might be able to read it out. You too can be tripped out. I shouldn't really. It's probably the wrong thing to do, but I think it's good to have knowledge. And I think that although I get told off, I'll be told off now by different people listening saying, oh, you shouldn't share that, it's the occult, and, but you don't have to, sign your soul over, and you don't have to do the exercise. Maybe I won't read it. I'll meditate over that in the little break we've got coming up in a moment, and I might read it, I might not. I don't want to give out anything bad. And of course, there's a copyright, it's someone else's book, so maybe it's not right to. So the book is called Sekhmet. It's by, I think it's called In the Belly of the Beast even, and it's by Nikki Scully. So you can, look it up yourselves as well, because it's, it is her book. It might not be right for me to share it anyway. And the other, Cadice's meditation is in the other book that she's written with Normandy Ellis, which is The Joining of Isis and Thoth. It's actually not called that, but it's something in that direction. So if you Google these two authors, you'll be able to find it. I might be able to look for it in the break. So when we come back from the break, I might well just do some reading, because I've shared quite a lot, and I don't really know much about what I've shared. I've just shared my experiences there. I'll just put them out there. So any enlightenment, anyone wants to comment below and give me some enlightenment around that would be fantastic. Or share their own experiences. That will also be really interesting to get conversation going. So it does make me feel quite vulnerable to share my experiences. But why not? Because I started the show reading and it just seems so dry and dead, and I really don't want to come on this radio and just give out dead leaves to people, because it just wastes their time. I don't want to waste people's time. Time is precious. I don't want to waste my time. I'm taking out 2 hours of my day, and I could be watching Dr. Foster downstairs on the TV, so which I can do afterwards anyway. So I'm taking my time out. You're taking your time out. I don't want to waste your time by just feeding you dried leaves with nothing in them, even if it means I'm being vulnerable myself and leaving myself open to insults over experiences that are very precious to me. It is a very precious experience. I do feel that figure, that Sariel figure, I feel him quite intensely. I don't get a good feeling, but that for me, an encounter with a being like that is quite interesting. I have come across other beings like that when I had E.A. Coetting on the show, and he talked about Azazel, and I did have a similar encounter when he described how to get there. So, these beings are there, and you can reach them. Whether you should reach them or not, it's not probably not advised, but I actually did find myself in that lift going down, not of my own volition. Anyway, we're going for a break, so I'll see you after. Thank you.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Join the Sacred Matrix with hosts Janet Kira Lesson and Dr. Sasha Lesson, 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on Revolution Radio.
Here we free ourselves from the God spell, transform the perverted matrix to the divine one. We become conscious and we embrace universal, unlimited love.
We feature colorful guests and topics such as extraterrestrials, ghosts, interdimensionals, and aliens. We examine evidence, anomalies, archaeological ruins, and anthropology.
We explore past lives, future lives, life between lives. We get into astral projection, near-death experiences, archetypes, visions, and dreams.
Episodes include time travel, teleportation, counseling, spirituality, tantra, relationships, peace, shamanism, peak experiences, and ego transcendence.
Join the lessons Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com for the Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio!
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew.
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another? Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
trouble.
Come
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, welcome back. It's Christine Joanna Hart, bringing you from the heart, alive from London, and it's dark. I started the show. It was beautiful sunset, pink sunset, and now it's like pitch black. It's freezing cold over here. Right now, it's 8 o'clock in London. So I'm continuing on the subject matter from the first show. While we were having the break, I found the Book of Enoch. Somebody was talking to me about the angels in there, and I was just talking about the encounter with Sariel earlier. And interestingly, something I didn't know was Sariel, with some others, was actually thrown to the center of the earth. So it does actually say in either the Bible and the other books of the Bible, the extra ones like the Book of Enoch, that the fallen angels, of which he is one, an archangel, that they were cast to the center of the earth. That's quite interesting. I felt that I had the experience of going down in that earth lift and then encountering them. It's quite weird to think that they're there doing whatever. I mean, and also having influence like via walk-ins. Not myself. There are hundreds of walk-ins, thousands of walk-ins. If you Google walk-in, you don't have to read Ruth Montgomery's book, Strangers Among Us. She's written many, many prophetic books, including one that I read when I was 21. I think it was Threshold to Tomorrow, and it was all about how there'd be the world would descend to chaos. It would start in the Middle East. Things are hotting up right now. I believe Ruth Montgomery is dead now, but you can Google. A lot of people have talked about walk-ins, so you can Google that. So clearly, Sariel, or the Dark Ones, do have walk-ins of their own, Draco walk-ins. So that is quite interesting. I clearly am not one. But it was interesting to have that encounter. So I'm going to read from the Book of Enoch to try and find out a little bit more about these characters, a little bit more about who Sariel might be. Haven't had time to do that. I've been really busy. So I'm kind of doing it along with you guys listening in. I've actually got a bit of time to myself to do something because things are a bit rough these days. Okay, I'm going to start off Book of Enoch, section 1, chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be too living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angel showed me. And from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one, which is 3 for to come. Concerning the elect I said, and took up my parable concerning them. The Holy Great One will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal God will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear from his camp, and appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens. And all shall be smitten with fear, and the watchers shall quake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be made low, and shall melt like wax before the flame. And the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, and all that is upon the earth shall perish, and there shall be a judgment upon all men. But with the righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect, and mercy shall be upon them, and they shall all belong to God, and they shall be prospered, and they shall all be blessed, and he will help them all. And light shall appear unto them, and he will make peace with them. And behold, he cometh with 10,000s of his holy ones, to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the ungodly, and to convict all flesh of all the works of their ungodliness, which they have ungodly committed, and all the hard things which ungodly sinners have spoken against in chapter 2. Observe ye everything that takes place in the heaven, how they do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in the heaven, how they all rise and set in order, each in its season, and to transgress not against their appointed order. Behold ye the earth, and give heed to the things which take place upon it from first to last, how steadfast they are, how none of the things upon earth 3 change. I wonder what that figure 3 is. But all the works of God appear to you. Behold the summer and the winter, how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew and rain lie upon it. Chapter 3. Observe and see how in the winter all the trees seem as though they had withered and shed all their leaves, except 14 trees, which do not lose their foliage, but retain the old foliage, from 2 to 3 years till the new comes. Chapter 4. And again observe ye the days of summer, how the sun is above the earth, over against it, and you seek shade and shelter by reason of the heat of the sun, and the earth also burns with growing heat, and so you cannot tread on the earth or on a rock by reason of its heat. So weird. It's like a weather forecast. I'm going to skip next bit out. And all the something shall rejoice, and there shall be forgiveness of sins, and every mercy and peace and forbearance. There shall be salvation unto them, a goodly light. And they shall not again transgress, nor shall they sin all the days of their life, nor shall they die, but they shall complete the number of the days of their life, and their life shall be increased in peace. Chapter 6. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied in those days, were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters, and the angels, the children of the heavens, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Semjazar, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not, for indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations. 5, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together and bound themselves. 6, by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn 7 and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Samlazaz, their leader, Arakilba, Remiel, Kokobel, Tamlil, Ramli, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakijah, Asael, Amaros, gosh, I can't say these names, Bataral, Anael, Zachiel, Semsapil, Satarel, Turul, Somjael, Sariel. Here we are, there's that guy there. These are their chiefs of 10s. So the first place I see Sariel is in chapter 6 in the book of Enoch, and they're saying that he is I think they're saying that he is a child of heaven who lusts after daughters. It's kind of odd to see that. I mean, haven't they got their own creatures to lust after? It's weird. I can't get my head around why that would happen. Chapter 7, and all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms, and they taught them enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bore great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured them. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish. I think that's when the dinosaurs come in, I'm not really sure. And to devour one another's flesh, cannibalism, and to drink their blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. So basically, they chose wives, human wives. Why would they do that? It just seems kind of weird. I find it hard to believe. And then they had these giants, and I believe they're the so-called Nephilim, which kind of links in with Egypt. Around the time of Jared was the time of the ancient Egyptians. So it's all around the same period. And it's kind of odd that, devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. I don't get why they were doing that. And then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. I suppose that, I don't know what that means either. Chapter 8, and Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones and all colouring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray. Really, I have to pause here and question what is the matter with, I suppose swords and knives aren't too cheery, but what's wrong with the metals of the earth, and what's wrong with bracelets and eyeshadow? And fornication, I think that's sex without being married. What's wrong with that, really, at the end of the day? Sorry if I've just upset anybody, but I just think marriage is all about money these days. It's not really anything to do with love. If it means sex without love, then I heartily agree. I don't think anybody should be doing it. So then it says, Sanjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. I don't know what that is either. Amaros, the resolving of the enchantments. Barakijal taught astrology. Kokobel taught the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Arakiel, the signs of the earth. Shamsiel, the signs of the sun. And Sariel, there he is there. Sariel, the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. Chapter 9. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, the earth made without inhabitants cries. The voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of God, King of kings, and God of all ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou, and all things are naked and open in their sight. And thou seest all things, and nothing can hide from thee. Thou seest what Azazel has done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved only in heaven, which men were striving to learn. I don't really understand it, really. What has he done super wrong at the end of the day? And some to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates, and they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. Not really. They haven't really revealed sins. As far as I can see, they've taught them about the constellations, about the sun, knowledge of the moon, whatever that is, the signs of the earth. Why is that so bad? I don't get it. I don't really understand. It's weird. And some just, hang on, where was I? Bring thy cause before the Most High. Thou seest what Azazel has done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Semjazet, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule, and have gone to the daughters of men, and have slept with them, and defiled them, revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has therefore been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now, behold, seems such a mess, doesn't it? And then there's this God who's like, is he listening? And now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they came to pass, and thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them, and thou dost say to us what we're to do. Chapter 10. And this is God speaking, I think. Then said the Most High, the Holy and the Great One, spake and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, go to Noah and tell him my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching. But the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to become on the whole earth, and will destroy all that's on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved. I wonder what seed that was. His seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is Duodil, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire. It's a bit harsh. And heal the earth, which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, and that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish for all the secret things that the watchers have declared. Oh, okay, so this Sariel is, wow, that's so annoying. This Sariel is a watcher, what they call watchers, which I think are also Anoinuke, but I can't say Anunnaki. Still I'm confused and lost, but I will carry on reading it. It seems to me that Azazel hasn't really done that much, and he's been punished just because he taught humans a few things. Gosh, I think it's a bit much. But this is the Most High. So he's gone to Noah and wants to preserve him. Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Duodil, and cast him therein, and place him upon rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not ever see the light. And on the day of great judgment he will be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish for all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. He's pretty much on the side of humans. He doesn't seem to care about the angels. He's really he seems, this God, this Most High, seems to just care about humanity, and he wants to preserve that seed. His seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world, and yet he's really angry with these watchers, whoever they might be. I haven't found that out yet. He's really angry with them, and yet they don't seem to have done that much. I mean, if humanity is going to use things for evil, then surely it's down to them. So I don't really understand. I'm not willing to just swallow that it's okay for them to be punished so horribly that he will be cast into the fire forever. And the whole earth is, I carry on reading here, and the whole earth is being corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For the length of days shall they not have, and no request that they make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf. For they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said unto Michael, go bind Semjazer and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to defile themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth. There you go, right in the center of the earth, the valleys of the earth, till their day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever, and whoever shall be condemned be destroyed, from which thenceforth be bound together with them to the end of all 15 generations, and destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Wow. So it's really massively, it's like a god of mankind, but not really a father of the watchers. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end, and let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, and it shall prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. It's not so great a place, is it, right now? And then shall all the righteous escape, and shall live till they beget thousands of children, and all the days of their youth shall they complete in peace. Not really worked. And then he goes on to say, and then shall the whole earth be tilled in righteousness, and shall be planted with trees and be full of blessing. So here we are in 2017, and is it full of blessing? No. And all desirable trees shall be planted on it, and they shall plant vines, and it goes on now that everything's going to be absolutely fantastic. And okay, chapter 12. Before these things Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of men knew where he was, and where he abode, and what had become of him. And his activities had to do with the watchers, and his days were with the holy ones. And I, Enoch, was blessing the Lord of majesty and the King of the ages. And lo, the watchers called me Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch the scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of the heaven, who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, and have done as the children of earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives. Ye have wrought great destruction on the earth, and ye shall have no peace nor forgiveness, and insomuch as they delight themselves in their children, the murder of their beloved ones shall they see, and over the destruction of their children shall they lament, and shall make supplication unto eternity, but mercy and peace shall you not attain. I don't know, does that really sound like God? Does that really sound like a loving God? Really, what have they done? They've been attracted to human women. It's kind of hard to believe that angels coming from heaven would suddenly be attracted to human women. I mean, it's okay. I mean, okay, if you suck that one up, fine. But why is it seen as such a sin? It's like people do read this and just automatically accept it and think it's okay. I don't think it's okay. I think it's it's odd and questionable and strange and doesn't seem right somehow. And the God who has come out with these judgments doesn't seem to be a God that I know. Okay, chapter 13. And Enoch went and said, Azazel, thou shalt have no peace. A severe sentence has gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds, and thou shalt not have toleration nor request granted to thee, because of the unrighteousness which thou hast taught, because of all the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which thou hast shown to men. Then I went and spoke to them all four together, and they were all afraid, and fear trembling seized them, and they besought me to draw up a petition for them, they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven. For from thenceforth they could not speak with him, nor lift up their eyes to heaven, for shame of their sins which they had been condemned. Then I wrote out the petition and the prayer in regards to their spirits and their deeds individually, in regard to their 7 requests, that they should have forgiveness and length. And I went off and sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan. Oh, sorry, have I got a complaint there? Actually, I'm going to check. I think I've got a... Nope, I don't think so. Sorry, I thought somebody... Okay, so where have we got to? Okay, and I went off and sat down in the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, to the south of the west of Hermon. I read their petition till I fell asleep, and behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me, and I saw visions of chastisement, and a voice came bidding to me to tell to the sons of heaven and reprimand them. And when I awaked, I came unto them, and they were all sitting gathered together, weeping, in Abbott's jail, which is between Lebanon and Sinister, with their faces covered. And I recounted before them all the visions which I had seen in sleep, and I began to speak the words of righteousness and to reprimand the heavenly watchers. The book of the words of righteousness and the reprimand of the eternal watchers, in accordance with the command of the Holy Great One in that vision. I saw in my sleep what I will now say with a tongue of flesh. Oh, that's odd, because I have those same experiences. I saw in my sleep what I will now say with a tongue of flesh and with the breath of my mouth. Me too, Enoch, which the Great One has given to men to converse thereof and understand with the heart, as he has created and given to man the power of understanding the word of wisdom, so hath he created me also and given me the power of reprimanding the watchers, the children of heaven. I wrote out your petition. In my vision it appeared thus, that your petition will not be granted unto you through all the days of eternity, and that judgment has been finally passed upon you, will not be granted unto you. From henceforth you should not ascend into heaven until all eternity, and in bonds of the earth the decree has gone forth to bind you for all the days of the world, and that previously you shall have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you shall have no pleasure in them, but they shall fall before you by the sword, and your petition on their behalf shall not be granted, nor yet on your own, even though you weep and pray, and speak all the words contained in the writing which I have written. And the vision was shown to me thus. Behold, in the vision clouds invited me, and a mist summoned me, and the course of the stars and the lightning sped and hastened me, and the winds in the vision caused me to fly, lifted me upward and bore me into heaven. And I went in till I drew nigh to a wall which is built of crystals and surrounded by tongues of fire, and it began to affright me. And I went into the tongues of fire and drew nigh to a large house which was built of crystals, and the walls of the house were like tessellated floor made of crystals, and its groundwork was full of crystal. Its ceiling was like the path of stars, and the lightnings between them were fiery cherubim, and their heaven was clear as water. A flaming fire surrounded the walls, and 13 portals blazed with fire. And I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice, and there were no delights of life therein. Fear covered me, and trembling got hold of me. And as I quaked and trembled, I fell upon my face, and I beheld a vision. And there was a second house greater than the former, and the entire portal stood open before me, and it was built of flames of fire, and every respect so excelled in splendour and magnificence and extent I cannot describe to you its splendour and its extent. And its floor was of fire, and above it were lightnings, and the path of the stars, and its ceiling was also flaming fire. And I looked, and therefore saw a lofty throne. Its appearance was crystal, and the wheels thereof of the shining sun. And there was a vision of 19 cherubim. From underneath the throne came streams of flaming fire. I could not look upon it. And the great glory sat there. So there he is. Enoch is face to face with the Most High, according to him. And the great glory sat on the throne, and his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. None of the angels could enter, and could behold his face by reason of the magnificence and glory, and no flesh could behold him. flaming fire was round about him, and a great fire stood before him, and none could draw him nigh. He needed no counsellor, and the most holy ones who were with him did not leave by night or depart from him. Until then I had been prostrate on my face, trembling. The Lord called me with his own mouth and said to me, Come hither, Enoch, and hear my word. One of the holy ones came to me and waked me, and he made me rise up and approach the door, and I bow my face downwards. And he said to me, Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous scribe, and go say to the watchers of heaven, you have sent thee to intercede for them. You should intercede for men, and not men for you. Wherefore have ye left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, defiled yourself with the daughters of men, taking yourself wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants? And though ye were holy, spiritual, living the eternal life, you have defiled yourselves now with the blood of women, and begotten children with the blood of flesh, as the children of men have lusted after flesh and blood, as do those who die. Therefore I have given them wives also, that they might impregnate them and get children. Thus nothing might be wanting to them on earth. But you were formerly spiritual, living the eternal life, and immortal, and therefore I have not appointed wives for you. And now the giants who are producing from the spiritual flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth will be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men and from the watchers. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle and work destruction, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offences. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men, and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. Chapter 16. From the days of the slaughter. So it's just going on now. He's kind of bitching. It just goes on really bitching. And these are basically Enoch's visions. Chapter 20. And these are the... Hang on. Chapter 19. Okay, here we are. Here we have... He's talking about cornerstones, and then he's talking about birds. And Uriel said to me, Here shall stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind, shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods, till the day of the great judgment, when they will be judged. And the women also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. I, Enoch, alone saw the vision. And these are the names of the holy angels who watch. Uriel, one of the holy angels, who is all over the world and over Tartarus. Raphael, one of the holy angels who is over the spirits of men. Raguel, one of the holy angels, takes vengeance on the world. Michael, Sarakel, and Gabriel, who is over paradise and the serpents. Ramiel, one of the holy angels who God sent. And I proceed to where things were chaotic, and I saw something horrible. For what sin are they bound, and on what account have they been cast hither? Then said Uriel, Who dost ask, and why art thou eager for the truth? These are the number of the stars in heaven which have transgressed the commandments of the Lord, and they are bound here till 10,000 years. The time entailed by their sins are consummated. From thence I went to another place, which is still more horrible than the former. And I saw a horrible thing, a great fire there, which burnt and blazed. The place was cleft as far from the abyss, and full of great descending columns of fire. Then I said, How fearful is the place, and how terrible to look upon. Then Uriel answered me, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said, Enoch, why hast thou such fear? I answered, Because of this fearful place, and because of the spectacle of the pain. He said unto me, This place is the prison of the angels, and here they will be in prison forever. Huh. I find that quite interesting, a little bit harsh. Because of this fearful place, and because of the spectacle of the pain, and he said unto me, This place is the prison of the angels, and here they will be in prison forever. It just doesn't seem to me to be like a loving God. Maybe I'm missing something. So then it goes on, chapter 27. So I'm not really sure what the Book of Enoch is actually about. This is the first time that I have actually looked at it. So I was looking just now at section 2. So I don't know if there's a section 3. Oh, there is a section 3. But it seems to have gone back to section 1. We press on section 4. That seems to have gone back. Section 5. You still get section. Yeah. So I'm getting the same thing. So I'll close that up. So I'm quite tired actually because I shared a lot and I read a lot, and 2 hours can really be draining when you've had a really quite draining day and got up really early. I was up at 6 this morning and quite exhausted. So it's been quite hard to share. So there we have basically these watchers, these angels at the time of Jared, which is about, I think, is it something like 500 BC? I think something like that, which is around coming up to the time of the ancient Egyptians. Probably the first dynasty is around that time. Maybe I've got that wrong, perhaps. Perhaps I have, I'm not sure. So these watchers were put over the earth to watch the earth and were somehow tempted by women and came down and made these creatures. There's something about it that's a little bit sad and a little bit, it doesn't seem to me to be anything really bad. Not really. If you think about the bad things that can be done, how bad is it, really? And they had children and they were big children. I mean, how bad is that too? And they taught men certain things. How bad is that also? It seems to me to be a bit harsh to then cast angels to prison states and bury them and prison them and then say that that is for thousands of years or for eternity. It seems to me, again, to read like the God of the Old Testament, who is pretty harsh and not really a loving God. Somehow doesn't match with the God that Jesus talks about, which is more loving. So I'm then pretty confused about which God it is who has done this. And then we tend to ascribe lots of evil to these watchers. We associate them with Satan, which means attacking Christ, but is there any attacking Christ that has gone on by them? Not really. Then we call evil spirits demons, presumably thinking that they're the spirits of the Nephilim, which were their children. So it all seems as if it's a bit almost like seeing children eating cakes that they shouldn't have eaten, and it being something quite small fry, and then yet a massive punishment for something that things will be joyous on the earth don't come true. It seems to me as if it's quite a dark place. For the particular God who is saying these things is obviously a and isn't the real God. That is the conclusion I have. And therefore all religions that have sprung from this dark God, like Christianity, Judaism, and even Islam, and we have to look at what's going on at the moment and to see that seem as if it's created much evil, much suffering, much pain right now. And it's all come from this one, this thing that has happened many. And it's the same thing that when the Egyptians, same darkness that again came upon them and scrunched them. And I don't know really what went on, and it would be nice if I could be enlightened. So I'll pray to for enlightenment around that, because I certainly haven't got enlightenment. So anyway, that's it for me. I've shared quite a lot with what's happening to me at the moment. I don't know if the show has been recorded because at the moment the servers, Mike, who runs the Mike, the show, has said that the show might not be recorded, and so I've asked a friend of the show, so hopefully I'll be able to put it up and hang it on YouTube, but probably I will start where I was trying to read, because I don't think anybody would listen to that. I start the show with reading, but gosh, you buy books and they look as if they're, fascinating, from Akhenaten to Moses. It was expensive, and it's not teaching me anything. I don't know why the guy who wrote it did. He studied a lot about the Book of Exodus, and he knows his history. You can get that anywhere. So why? I don't know. Really much there. God, so annoying when that happens, because books are expensive. Sadly, I still can't get a publisher for my book. I've written it as a novel, but it's based on my own experiences. I've found out over the last 5 years, being down the road, and I can't find a publisher. I haven't started finding it. Looking, I found an agent. The literary agents they look for a certain thing and they talk in a certain way, and I don't. And so it's a snob. It's a snob thing, the class thing. You've got to speak in a certain middle class way, and if you don't, the people in the agents, they don't want you there. It's almost a thing, but it's not about race, it's about class. The class system in England is worse than race if you happen to be working class and intelligent, because you really you feel it, you really feel it. It's out there and it's strong, and it can get pretty nasty, actually. So yeah, that is that. So I can't, despite the fact that if people read it, they would be nourished by it. So it's sad. It's a shame. But maybe I can turn it into the horror genre and publish it this way. Gosh, they've got a chat for Revolution Radio, so it keeps coming up the side of the thing. So I have 10 more minutes, and I do feel really exhausted. That I want to sleep for a long time, but alas, I have to go to bed quite quickly, because I have to be again in the morning, and it's quite sort of wind down when you have to really get to bed early. I should really get to bed to the show, but I would like to watch TV, have a bath, and big. It's not much time to do that. Gosh, there's so many people talking in the chat away. So please do come and find me. Facebook, Chris Joe Hart. Join me on Facebook. If you can't join me as a friend, just follow me, and I keep my page public anyway. Do that and join in with discussions that I have subscribe to my YouTube. It does cheer me up, make me happy to see that at least people are listening. And do comment below, please. That is also helpful in the discussion. I was on the Richie Allen show last week, so I'm going to try and share that on my channel, but if I'm not able to, please go over to Richie Allen, David Icke's, and it will be over there somewhere. Richie, interesting chat about ISIS. And thank you everyone that sent me an email. Really kind of you, and the comments were really beautiful. One in particular said some really nice things that lifted my day, and I'm really thank you very much for that. It really does help. So yeah, it's now coming up to, and we're just going to finish off the show, and it is called I actually live near a river, but we'll be moving soon. Thank God, because my son opens the patio we're renting, and it's absolutely freezing. But he enjoys the cold, and of course I don't. It makes me quite ill. And we have birds, canaries and lovebirds, and he puts them out on the patio and brings them in water and feeds them seed, and he's not really careful about putting them in the dishes everywhere. And literally, as soon as I come in of the evening, the floor is wet, seed everywhere. Just like a preview of hell. I'm actually scared to go downstairs. Seed. I sweep it up every day, but these birds seem to everywhere. And then when my son comes in and squirts them all with, because he likes squirting, he says with water, the place, seed on the floor, seed germinating. I have plague of flies in the kitchen. I had a piece of fruit that I didn't know, and this fruit kind of seemed to kind of go off, and then all of a sudden there was these tiny little flies. And then when I went in there tonight, there was a lot of flies on another piece of fruit that had a tiny bite taken out of it. So I don't know if anybody knows how to get rid of those little pesky little things, but if you do, please let me know on Facebook, just through Messenger, because I really don't like them. They're just so horrible. And my son said the best thing is to make sure there's nothing at all that they can see as food. But I've noticed there's a few of them, just tiny, tiny flies on the door frame of the windows. I don't know if anybody knows about how to get rid of them. I found a thing on a website saying red wine in a bowl, so I put red wine in a bowl upstairs, myself a glass that I haven't had a chance to drink yet. So that looked as if it might work. So if it doesn't work, then I really hate things like that. I think it's really creepy. I like to come in a house and it be warm and cozy, and no seed, no water, and no flies. But there we are. My son likes animals, so I also brought him a gerbil recently, and so that's a new member of our family, a little gerbil called Taj. Is it named after Tajinda? Yes, it is. He thought it would be funny to call it Taj, so that's its name. So, yeah. I'm just waiting for the last couple of minutes, and music should come soon. Thank you very much for listening. I'm winding down, absolutely exhausted and really, really drained. And we'll go and have a chance to visit with my son and talk to him about his day and help him with his homework. I just remembered I have to print out a map of Europe for him to work out who are the allies in World War II. So he's got to do that. before his bedtime, so I've got to go and Google and find a map of Europe to print out. I'm sure it'll be quite easy. I just would really just like to just go and watch a movie, actually. Just go and watch a movie and just be really quiet and just watch a movie and just be really silent. Never mind. 8 minutes to go. Or have a bath and not read, just drink some wine in a bath and be still. But never mind. I just eat to the gerbil and do homework and tidy up and all those things. Never mind. That's life, I suppose. That's life in the perfection once the Watchers have been jailed onto the earth. Everything's going to be perfect. Well, it's not actually. So not really a great God, but please do leave your comments below. That's just my opinion. Maybe you've got the same opinion as me. Maybe you haven't. Something strange is going on. And something's been covered up. So there's a truth that's been covered up, and I don't really know what that is. So I'm sure by next week I will be enlightened further. So just waiting here for the music and waiting for the music to come. Music, come, music. It's just 5 minutes to the hour, and golly, it's terrible when you finish a show and the time isn't in agreement with you, but there we are. Isn't it weird when you go to Skype and you look down and there's a host chat station which 456 messages. Wow. Golly. So this is all the different hosts of Revolution Radio talking to each other. Oh my God, there's someone there called Morningstar. That's interesting. I've heard that name before somewhere, but I don't really know where. So I guess he's a host on Revolution Radio. It's quite strange. Different hosts. Oh, there he is. There he's come up. Robert Morningstar. I've heard that name before. There is a plot by the military to dispose and assassinate President Trump. So these are the different hosts that you can find on Revolution Radio. Okay, who's that? There's all sorts of political stuff. Okay, we've got 5 minutes to go, and thank you very much for listening to the show. It's been really nice and an honour to be able to share my truth, and yeah, so interesting. So yeah, it's nice, isn't it? People's birthdays come up along the sides. You can send them a little picture of a cartoon cake. So I'm still waiting. 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes to go, and then I will just be... Here we are. Okay, I'm going to go and do my son's homework. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after